It was getting darker as the sun was setting. Little Yuana's sudden strike stunned the cultivators outside the room. They stood riveted to the ground as they stared at the young lady before them with incredulity. This was especially true for the man who wanted to test their cultivation bases earlier. He stood near the door with wide eyes like a wooden chicken. He knew Steward Joe's strength well. Steward Joe was in the peak divine court realm. And yet, he was sent flying with just a kick from the young lady. What was this? Everyone inside and outside the room fell silent for some time. They were staring at the young lady before them with wide eyes. Steward Joe launched into a coughing fit as he was sprawled on the ground. As he coughed, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. "Master, he's not dead yet. Can I give him another kick?" Little Yuana requested. Quote. Her request made Steward Joe cough up another mouthful of blood. A book should not be judged by its cover, nor should a person be judged by their looks. This little girl seemed innocent and pure. And yet, she was terrifying. Steward Joe raised a hand and pointed an accusatory finger at the man who was supposed to test their cultivation bases. The man fell to his knees immediately, fumbling over his words. He wanted to say that he had no idea that the little girl's cultivation base would be greater than her master. Lu Zhou looked at Steward Joe, who was sprawled on the ground, before he looked at the other frightened cultivators around him. He said, "If you wish to live, tell Shen Langshu to meet me." At this moment, several figures gathered outside the door. Lu Zhou was surprised to find that there were these many cultivators in the small Liang province's city. Steward Joe sat up and said with a deep voice, "Don't come in." He inhaled deeply and calmed his spirits. He pressed on his chest as he asked, Old mister, do you really want to go against Master Shen?" Without waiting for a reply from Lu Zhou, Little Yuana said, "You're annoying. My master will meet anyone he wants. Do you have a problem with that?" As she spoke, she waved her fist. Steward Joe flinched. This little girl doesn't seem to be the reasonable kind. He looked at Lu Zhou, who seemed indifferent to all this. He hoped that the old man in the divine court realm would say something. Before he could say anything, Lu Zhou said, "I will meet Shen Langshu tomorrow morning. I won't repeat myself." The steward was stunned. At this moment, Little Yuana summoned her 100 Tribulations Insight avatar. Her 10-foot avatar suddenly appeared. The resonance of her primal chi made the cultivators in the area shiver despite the temperature. Good gracious, a nascent divinity elite. A leafed avatar. This. The man was still holding the gemstone in his hand. Currently, he was ghastly pale. Little Yuana laughed. She pointed at the man and said, "Are you scared out of your wits now? What a cowardly person. Master, show them your avatar. Let them have the shock of their lives." Lu Zhou. Quote. Lu Zhou looked up at the huge hole in the ceiling. He raised his hand and softly knocked Little Yuana's head. He reprimanded her. "Behave yourself." Little Yuana hastily covered her head and dared not make any other requests. "I've made a mistake, Master." Lu Zhou left the room with his hands on his back. When one of the cultivators saw this, he immediately understood what was happening and said, "I'll prepare a new room for you." Little Yuana hopped over the threshold. She pulled a face at the man with the gemstone. "I've almost forgotten. You're not worthy to see my master's avatar." After she said this, she followed her master to the other room. When the two of them left, Steward Joe and the tester exchanged glances. The man was close to tears as he held the gemstone closely. "Steward Joe, please have mercy. That old man is truly in the divine court realm. I swear if I lie, I'll die a gruesome death." Steward Joe's eyes were bloodshot. Little Yuana's kick had gravely injured him. He could judge for himself if Lu Zhou was truly in the divine court realm or not. Steward Joe looked at the cultivators in the courtyard and ordered, "Notify Master Shen. Tell him to come here. Quickly." Then, he looked at the man with the gemstone. "You can get lost now." The meaning of "get lost" in the Shen villa meant that he would be reduced to a blind, deaf, and dumb person. If not dead, the dealings of this place would never be allowed to be leaked to the outside world. "Get lost" was merely an indirect way of saying things. When the man heard this, his face turned ashen as he lowered his head. Night fell. Lu Zhou meditated on the heavenly writing scrolls inside his room. After a while, he suddenly heard the notification from the system. Ding! You've meditated on the contents of the Heavenly Scroll 100 times. Reward. Open Heavenly Writing Scroll, middle. Lu Zhou opened his eyes. He was slightly surprised by this. He remembered that meditating 100 times required a long time. It seemed like a long time had passed. He had 2 open Heavenly Scrolls now. All that was left was the back scroll. He reckoned that the final piece was on Brackish Mountain. This reminded him of Yu Shangrong. Lu Zhou sighed. Yu Shangrong had not changed since his youth. No matter what happened, he would not make a sound. He would insist on taking care of things himself. He hoped that nothing untoward would happen to Yu Shangrong. Then, he closed his eyes and continued meditating on the Heaven Writing Scroll. Time passed by without him noticing. The skies were still dark. Torches were lit in the courtyard. Shortly after, there were buzzes of resonance. Someone was summoning their avatars. To put it more aptly, there were many who were trying to summon their avatars. Lu Zhou did not move. He was unaffected. About 6 cultivators hovered above the villa. They surrounded a miniature flying chariot, which was just the right size to fit a single person. Lu Zhou sensed the intense surges of auras outside. Although he could not see it, the resonance of the surging auras meant that there were at least 2 nascent divinity tribulation realm elites. Indeed, Shen Langshu was skilled. The flying chariot landed. The other cultivators landed as well. Who dares to wreak havoc in my Shen villa? The voice was deep and forceful. Clearly, he had deliberately raised his volume for intimidation effects. Is Shen Langshu an elite cultivator as well? Lu Zhou waved his hand casually. The door was blasted open by his energy. The villa was illuminated by torches. Apart from the Brahman Sea Realm cultivators, the courtyard was occupied by the flying chariot and several cultivators. Shen Langshu sat with his back straight on the flying chariot. Lu Zhou walked out of his room with his hands on his back. He swept his eyes across the area. Apart from Shen Langshu, who was a nascent divinity elite, the cultivators around him were also in the nascent divinity tribulation realm. The others were only in the divine court and Brahman sea realms. They were too insignificant to mention. Are you Shen Langshu? Lu Zhou asked. How dare you? The sound wave rolled across the courtyard. Steward Zhou felt invigorated. A relieved expression could be seen on his face as he endured the pain. The one who spoke was the greatest elite under Shen Langshu, Feng Ping. When Feng Ping heard Lu Zhou mention Shen Langshu's name, he shouted and leaped out. Killing a person is only a matter of making his head roll on the ground. You should consider the master before you hit the dog. Feng Ping leaped and launched dozens of palm seals in the air. Lu Zhou shook his head helplessly. He was about to use the Heavenly Writing Scroll's extraordinary power when little Yuan moved with her 7 stars cloud-treading steps. She unfurled her Nirvana sash. Boom, boom, boom. The palm seals were repelled. Little Yuan placed herself before Lu Zhou. She pointed at Feng Ping in the air and said, Hey, do you think that you're worthy of fighting my master? After she said this, little Yuan moved with her 7 stars cloud-treading steps and left several afterimages in her wake as she lunged at Feng Ping. Lu Zhou did not stop her. Coincidentally, he wanted to see her recent improvements. For a time, energies shot throughout the villa as the 2 opponents engaged in a fierce battle. Little Yuan shot to the left and right. It was as though the skies were full of her figures. Steward Zhou and the others registered looks of fright on their faces when they saw this. That little girl is powerful. To think that she's evenly matched with Feng Ping. Steward Zhou regretted his actions greatly now. He realized that he had offended a great individual because of a low-level mistake by his subordinate. Usually, if they knew they were dealing with an elite cultivator, they would have treated them politely and would never try to take advantage of them. Boom, boom, boom. Little Yuan grew more and more excited and invigorated as the battle dragged on. Her laughter resounded throughout the villa. Feng Ping felt more frustrated the longer he fought. He was a 4-leaf nascent divinity elite. After all, and yet, he was being held back by a little girl. Whiz! He activated his avatar. The Nirvana sash wrapped around little Yuan as she reeled. You lowlife, how dare you rely on your avatar? When there was a difference in realms, attacking with one's avatar was often the best choice. Feng Ping snorted. He clapped his hands. Several palm seals were launched at little Yuan. Boom, boom, boom. She defended with her Nirvana sash again. The palm seals dissipated under the power of the Nirvana sash. It's a heaven-grade weapon. On the flying chariot, Shen Lanshu's eyes brightened. However, he quickly adjusted his expression as though nothing had happened and spoke loudly. Stop. Feng Ping had no choice but to recall his avatar and landed beside the flying chariot. Shen Lanshu looked at the calm Lu Zhou who was standing by the door and said, "Old mister, cutting off a person's avenue to earn money is as grievous a crime as killing his parents. Why don't we sit down and talk things through?" As he spoke, his eyes were trained on the scarlet Nirvana sash on little Yuana's body. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "I'll give you an opportunity to atone for your sins." His tone deepened as he continued to say, "First, destroy your cultivation base. Second, answer my questions honestly. Third, as long as I'm here, all of you will do my bidding." Lu Zhou had already thought of these words when he was meditating on the heavenly writing scrolls. Since Shen Lanshu was at the top of the whitelist, regardless of the nature of his activities, they had nothing to do with him. However, he could not let this incident slide. These 3 punishments were reasonable enough. When Shen Lanshu and the others heard this, they frowned. The other cultivators in the villa exchanged glances. This man had spoken in such a brazen manner before their master. Where did he get his confidence from? An ominous feeling rose in Steward Zhou's heart. He took 2 steps back, slightly worried. He was already injured to begin with. If they were to fight, he would only be on the losing end. Instead of being offended, Shen Lanshu laughed. He applauded and said, "Old mister, that joke isn't funny at all." "I never joke," Lu Zhou said with a straight face. Shen Lanshu frowned slightly. "There are only a handful of individuals in the world who can impress me. For as long as I've lived, I've only been impressed by 2 people. Oh, the first is the current emperor, Yong King." When he said this, he made no movements. He opened his mouth again and cupped his fists. "The second person is the evil Sky Pavilion's patriarch. That's who I admire." Quote. Steward Zhou wasn't lying. He's really taking me as his idol. It was quite ironic for the first person on the whitelist to admire the person on the top of the blacklist. Little Yuana broke out in peals of laughter and said, "In that case, you should kneel and grovel before my master." She said this earnestly and seriously. However, it sounded extremely mocking to Shen Lanshu. "Feng Ping." Shen Lanshu waved his hand. Feng Ping had a sharp look in his eyes. With swift movements, he left an afterimage in his wake. Dao invisibility and expansive heavenly energy. Everyone was staring at Feng Ping who had unleashed all his strength. Little Yuana was about to make a move when she saw her master raise his palm. Since master's making his move, everything is settled now. A purple electric light shone in Lu Zhou's hand. He curved his arm and pushed forward. It was not a deadly strike card. It was Thunderblast, a palm seal that was buzzing with bolts of purple lightning shot forward. A divine court realm cultivator. Feng Ping thought nothing of this. He kept his eyes on Lu Zhou. Just when he was about to touch Lu Zhou, the purple thunderblast fell on him. Bam! He was hit squarely on the chest. Before he could even unleash his Dao invisibility or expansive heavenly energy, he was sent flying. His mind turned blank. While he faced the skies, he saw a purple lightning bolt descending from the skies. He croaked, "Thunderblast!" Boom! Thunderblast connected with its target. Feng Ping spat out a mouthful of fresh blood skyward before crashing on the ground loudly. His Danshan sea of qi felt as though it had been heavily hammered by someone. He lost all means of fighting back. The fatality rate of Thunderblast was low. However, the rate for it to land a heavy blow was not bad. And it was triggered this time. The entire courtyard was as silent as a graveyard. Steward Zhou's knees buckled. He fell to the ground. His face was ashen. Is this the Divine Court Realm? Is this still the FC King Divine Court Realm? How can a Divine Court Realm cultivator deal such a heavy blow to a 4-leaf nascent divinity elite like Feng Ping? You've got to be kidding me. Steward Zhou was not the only one who was shocked. Shen Lanshu was shocked as well. Shen Lanshu's cultivation base was only 1 leaf higher compared to Feng Ping. He was among the ranks of 5-leaf grand cultivators. However, against the old man who defeated Feng Ping with a single strike, his confidence wavered. Alas! He could not back down at this point. He waved his hand. The other cultivators hovered in the air. They moved forward and surrounded Lu Zhou and little Yuan. Stubborn. Lu Zhou shook his head. Little Yuan rolled her eyes and said, "You're so stupid. Since you admire my master so much, shouldn't you be begging for forgiveness right now?" Shen Lanshu sneered and said, "Little girl, don't you think for a moment that I'm a gullible person? I'm at the top of the whitelist. After all, seize them." With his order, the cultivators advanced upon them. Naturally, Shen Lanshu would not believe her. He had a portrait of Ji Tiandao in his study. It was a face that he looked at every single day. The old man before him looked nothing like Ji Tiandao. Lu Zhou could not be blamed for this. After all, Ji Tiandao never cared about his appearance. On top of that, his hair was usually disheveled due to his old age, and he had a fiery temper. In contrast, this gentle old man who had an erudite air about him looked completely different. When the cultivators advanced, Shen Lanshu flew into the air from his flying chariot. Bayan. Roar. Nobody knew which corner did the roar originate from. Bayan charged out of the shadows. It lunged at the cultivators around it. The cultivators were scared out of their wits. They were plunged into disarray at once like a platter of loose sand. Bayan was enough to deal with these low-ranked cultivators. Ding! Killed a target. Reward. 10 merit points. Ding! Killed a target. Reward. 10 merit points. Lu Zhou did not care about the meager number of merit points. Instead, he was looking at the flying chariot that had just risen into the air. Shen Lanshu said, "I will remember this debt. We'll meet again." He was confident that he could escape on his flying chariot. Lu Zhou's expression remained unchanged. He raised his left hand before he lifted his right hand. He condensed qi into energy. A faint bluish bow took form. A blue energy arrow materialized between his index and middle fingers as well. Originating from nothing, and from it comes everything. Living in samsara and learning from it. The scene of him penetrating the clouds and shooting down the Mount Bawu played in his mind. The extraordinary power of the heavenly writing scrolls was wrapped around the arrow. Bam! The energy arrow was released. It sailed through the air like a blue fireworks show. Its radiance was accentuated by the moonlight as it formed a long tail behind itself. Shen Lanshu heard the peculiar incoming sound behind himself. He turned to look. What's that? Energy arrow. He activated his avatar at once. He covered his body in his protective energy. The energy arrow seemed as though it was piercing through tofu as it pierced Shen Lanshu's avatar and his Danshan Sea of Qi. With a crack, the flying chariot shattered. Shen Lanshu fell from the skies. Little Yuan jumped up and down as she clapped her hands. "It's a hit, Master. I want to learn archery as well." Lu Zhou shook his head. He was not quite satisfied. If he had attacked with Unnamed, he would have killed a 5-leaf elite. He used the same amount of power. 1/3 of his extraordinary power. When he used it with Unnamed back then, he killed the sword freak Luo Changqing with the power of past lives. However, at the moment, he could only shoot down the 5-leaf Shen Lanshu. Without a heaven-grade weapon and at this range, the intensity of his attack was much weaker. However, the arrow had penetrated Shen Lanshu's Danshan Sea of Qi. This was equivalent to destroying his cultivation base. Boom! Shen Lanshu crashed onto a roof and rolled off it. When he fell to the ground, he regarded Lu Zhou with a frightful expression. At the same time, Bayan had already cleared the cultivators. The villa was silent again. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he looked at Shen Lanshu on the ground and said, "I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it." Shen Lanshu's expression was extremely dark. He withstood the pain pulsing from his Danshan Sea of Qi and asked, "Are you from the Luo sect?" Little Yuan said, "Tui, not the crappy Luo sect." Lu Zhou did not mind. He spoke with a deep voice. "Do you yield?" Shen Lanshu was sprawled on the ground. "I do. I really do." Shen Lanshu could sense the primal qi in his Danshan Sea of Qi had been destroyed by that peculiar arrow. He was frightened and in pain. After he said the word, yield, he spat out another mouthful of blood. He struggled as he sprawled on the ground for a while before he finally calmed down. Lu Zhou raised a hand, and several energy blades flew toward Shen Lanshu. Bam! 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 The energy blades hit Shen Lanshu's meridian points. His pain subsided almost immediately. He wiped the sweat off his face. His arrogance and anger from earlier had completely vanished. Bayan, who had finished showing off his might, flew in a circle in the sky before it landed again. The ones who were left standing in Shen Villa were only mortals and low-rank cultivators. Lu Zhou glanced at Bayan, thinking that the mount was rather interesting. It was smart enough to pick targets who would reward him with high merit points. He checked the system dashboard. To his dismay, he only gained 200 merit points. The path of earning merit points by killing Divine Court realm targets or below was extremely slow. Meanwhile, Steward Zhou and Feng Ping lay on the ground, unmoving. They had completely lost the ability to fight. Shen Lanshu sat up. He rubbed his eyes when he saw Bayan with its terrifying appearance. He instinctively shrunk back. Lu Zhou stroked his beard, shook his head, and asked, "When did you start this shady business?" Shen Lanshu wiped the sweat off his face and said, Old mister, I'm merely trying to make a living. I've only just started." Lu Zhou was not interested in that. After all, it had nothing to do with him. "Tell me about the situation in this city." Little Yuaner found a chair from the room and placed it behind Lu Zhou like a sensible child. Lu Zhou sat down and regarded Shen Lanshu calmly, ready to interrogate him. Shen Lanshu was no longer in pain. However, when he recalled what happened earlier, he was still overwhelmed with fear. He gulped before he asked, "The situation in the city?" Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he waited for Shen Lanshu's answer. Shen Lanshu considered it for a moment before replying. "Chaotic. Extremely chaotic. Before your arrival, the members of the Nether sect battled the city's garrison. There were many casualties. What about the other tribes?" Lu Zhou asked. Shen Lanshu frowned when the other tribes were mentioned. There were many from Lulan and Ruli from the western region. However, I don't know about the other tribes. It was understandable that Shen Lanshu did not know much about this. Otherwise, he would not even have a chance to do anything before Great Yan's imperial family swept in and took care of them. "Are these the only tribes?" Lu Zhou asked in slight confusion. "There are 5 nations in Rongxi and 7 in Rubei. They've always behaved themselves. Apart from Lulan and Ruli, I've never heard about the presence of the other tribes here." Shen Lanshu answered truthfully. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. He began sorting through GT Yandao's memories. Since Emperor Yongshou defeated Rongxi and Rongbei, Great Yan had attained the position of dominance. The other tribes in Rongxi and Rongbei reorganized themselves. From countless scattered nations, they formed the 5 nations of Rongxi and the 7 nations of Rongbei. These 12 nations had always existed in subservience to Great Yan. They paid tithes and offered their princesses for marriage alliances. These 12 nations did not lose their rebellious streak. However, they would frequently trespass upon Great Yan's borders over the most trivial of matters. The 4th prince, Lu Bing, spent most of his time at the borders to deter the nations, so they had been able to enjoy some peace as of now. "Where's the 4th prince, Lu Bing, now?" Lu Zhou asked. Shen Lanshu was shocked. He looked at Lu Zhou skeptically and replied, "I only heard that His 4th Highness led an army of 300,000 men and 5,000 cultivators. His troops are divided to defend the 10 cities of Liang province. I don't know which city he's currently in. 5 of Liang province's 10 cities are protected by formations. 5 of them aren't. His 4th Highness won't put himself in harm's way." Lu Zhou felt that Shen Lanshu was honest enough. He stood up slowly, stroked his beard, and said, "Find out about this with your resources. If you do this well, I'll spare you." Shen Lanshu was overjoyed to hear this. He hastily bowed and said, "At your service, old mister." That night, Shen Lanshu could only stay in the villa. He did not stay far. He stayed in the room next to Lu Zhou. It was a restless night for him. After losing his cultivation base, he spent his waking hours feeling worried that his subordinates might stab him in the back. In Liang province, the people would swallow you whole and leave nothing behind. There was no such thing as reason. Shen Lanshu wanted to live even after his cultivation base was destroyed because he had a way to restore his cultivation base. Although it was a slightly difficult feat, he, at least, had hope. He was at the top of the whitelist after all. This title alone gave him the means to find a way to restore his Danshan's sea of qi such as the sable magnolia. However, Before anything else, he had to come up with a way to protect himself. The safest place would be next to the old man. The next morning, Shen Langshu immediately sent his men to gather information from the 10 cities. He poured all his effort into this task. When afternoon arrived, Shen Langshu approached Lu Zhou respectfully. "Old mister, I've had my men investigate the matter. His Fourth Highness is most probably in the city of Mo in the northern parts of Liang province." He dared not leave before he got a reply. After waiting for a moment, he heard a voice from inside the room. "Any movements from the Nether sect? I heard that Yu Zhenghai, the sect master of the Nether sect master, and his 4 great protectors have gone to the city of Mo as well." Shen Langshu said with a sigh. "The Nether sect has plunged the whole world into chaos. Yu Zhenghai is also the evil Sky Pavilion's first disciple. His cultivation base is terrifying. With him personally making a move, the 4th prince won't stand a chance even if he has powerful soldiers at his disposal. Continue your investigations." "Understood." Another day passed. On the 3rd day, Shen Liangho stood at the door and reported, "Old mister, there have been great changes in the 10 cities of Liang province. The Nether sect has engaged the 4th prince in a battle. Both sides have suffered great losses. The 5 cities that aren't protected by formations are conquered by the Nether sect overnight. I'm afraid they'll make their way here soon. Investigate some more." Shen Langshu bowed and left. On the 4th day, before the sky turned bright, Shen Langshu hastened to Lu Zhou's door. Unlike his usual behavior, he said, "Old mister, please leave Liang province's city now. Liang province city's formation is now under the control of the traitor. The Nether sect has already breached the city gates." As soon as Shen Langshu finished speaking, the sound of thundering hooves resounded through the city. There were also groups of cultivators flying in the air. Smoke rose and billowed, and killing intent seemed to permeate the air. Liang province's garrison was being pushed back. 10 worlds avatars popped up in the streets as they advanced. Although they were not as powerful as 100 Tribulations Insight avatars, against cultivators in the Divine Court realm and below, the 10 worlds avatar was a potent killing weapon. The Nether sect was in no short supply of these cultivators. The sweeping attacks from the Nether sect captured or killed the individuals who resisted. Shen Langshu was fidgeting as if he had ants in his pants when a gust of wind blew above his head. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dozens of cultivators appeared above the villa. "I am Yu Hong, the second seat of Nether sect's Azure Dragon Hall. Those who follow me will prosper, and those who resist will perish. Cultivators, step forward." The Nether sect's mode of operation was to control its members with a hierarchy. Shen Langshu did not expect the Nether sect to arrive here so soon. Now that he had lost his cultivation base, he had no way to defend himself. He was worried to no end. He looked at Lu Zhou's room. Yu Hong glanced at Shen Langshu. "You're hurt. Why?" Yes. Shen Langshu wanted to point at Lu Zhou's room, but he was not bold enough. "Take him." 2 cultivators descended from the sky and held Shen Langshu in place. Creak. The doors opened. Lu Zhou emerged from the room with his hands on his back. He looked at Yu Hong, the Azure Dragon Hall's second seat, who was hovering in the air. Yu Hong gauged the aura of the old man. He shook his head and said, "Regardless of the person, we won't let anyone who opposes the Nether sect go." At this moment, little Yuanair ran out of the room. She pointed at Yu Hong in the air and said, "Watch your tone when you're talking to my master." Yu Hong was taken aback. Most cultivators would try to resist. This was especially true of elites in the nascent divinity realm and above. They usually had the support of their sects. Therefore, the Nether sect chose to conquer the Clarity sect, the Righteous sect, and other major sects. They absorbed the various elites to intimidate other grand cultivators. This way, the other grand cultivators would not dare to make rash moves. Meanwhile, in Great Yan, the Nether sect could focus its attention on dealing with the imperial family. As for the cultivators they encountered during the chaos, such as these people before Yu Hong, they would usually capture them to avoid any unwanted developments in the future. When things were calmer, they would release those who were supposed to be released and kill those who should be killed. Conquering a city was a cruel undertaking. After all, Si Wuya hatched this plan for the Nether sect in hopes that no one would seize the opportunity to cause trouble. Yu Hong gauged the aura of the young lady who had suddenly appeared as well. He frowned. Early stage nascent divinity realm. Why is there a nascent divinity realm cultivator in Liang province? In the end, he said, I'm Yu Hong, the second seat of Nether sect's Azure Dragon Hall. I don't know why two of you are here in Liang province's city. But I would ask for your kind cooperation and follow my men. He had always respected experts. The Nether sect's Yu Hong. Lu Zhou only knew about the four great protectors in general. He did not take much notice of them. In his opinion, these lesser characters were not worthy of his attention. After all, Yu Hong was not offended. He asked, do you not know about the Nether sect? Old mister. Little Yuanair was just about to say something when Lu Zhou stopped her. This little girl can easily ruin things with her mouth. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, I know a thing or two. Yu Hong cupped his fists to his left and said, my sect master is the Evil Sky Pavilion's first disciple. He's also one of the rare 8-leaf elites in the cultivation world. The person Lu Zhou wanted to meet right now was Yu Zhenghai or Si Wuya. Before he achieved that, he could not disclose too much information about himself. After muttering to himself for a while, Lu Zhou said, I'll go with you, little Yuanair, quote. She really did not understand the thoughts in her master's mind. Was there a need for her master to do this? However, she knew her master had his reasons for everything he did. Therefore, she did not object and obediently followed Lu Zhou and stepped forward. Thank you for your cooperation. Lu Zhou, little Yuanair, and Shen Langshu left the villa, being led by Yu Hong and his men. Meanwhile, Steward Zhou and Feng Ping, who were too injured to walk, were carried by ordinary sect members. By afternoon, the Nether sect had successfully conquered Liang province's city. Lu Zhou, little Yuanair, and Shen Langshu were sent to the reserve army encampment where Liang province usually assigned its cultivators. Yu Hong accompanied him along the way. At the encampment, Lu Zhou saw about 50 cultivators in and below the Brahman Sea realm. It seemed like Lu Zhou and little Yuanair had the most profound cultivation bases among the people here. It was no wonder Yu Hong gave them preferential treatment. As for Shen Langshu, without his cultivation base, even the ordinary sect members had no trouble guarding him. Yu Hong said to Lu Zhou, don't worry, I'll have to ask you to bear with this for a few days. When we've conquered all 10 of Liang province's cities, you'll be released. Lu Zhou asked, can the Nether sect conquer the city of Mo? Yu Hong replied with a hint of disapproval. Why not? To tell you the truth, we have the Evil Sky Pavilion's Mr. Seventh on our side. The Nether sect will rule the world. It's only a matter of time. I remember that the city of Mo is guarded by the Coiling Dragon Formation. How are you going to deal with that? Yu Hong was taken aback. If this had happened at any other time, he would have struck the cultivator who doubted the Nether sect. However, these two had profound cultivation bases. Especially the little girl by the old man's side who seemed like an airhead but had a nascent divinity realm cultivation base. It was always better to appease these elites at pivotal moments such as this. So, he said with a smile, I believe in the sect master and Mr. Seventh's abilities. After he said this, he turned around and left. The other cultivators swarmed toward Lu Zhou and little Yuanair after Yu Hong left. They gave Lu Zhou a thumbs up. I'm impressed. You're bold enough to speak to the second seat of the Nether sect's Azure Dragon Hall with that tone. Old mister, we're merely outsiders. Why would you ask about those things? Be careful that you're not burned by the fire as well. That's right, we're well fed here. Let them fight their battles. I don't care who the world belongs to so long as I have food in my mouth. Clearly, most of the cultivators were indifferent about this. After all, who would dare to stand up under these circumstances? Who would dare to oppose the Nether sect? Lu Zhou ignored these low-ranked cultivators. His goal was to capture Si Wuya and Yu Zhenghai. He could not care less about other matters. He called up the system dashboard and inspected the mission column. Like before, apart from Yi Tiangxin, Yu Zhenghai and Si Wuya did not appear. The other 6 main missions were about instructing his disciples. Shen Langshu, who was standing nearby, said with a sour expression, Old mister, about our agreement. I've always kept my words. Thank you, old mister. Shen Langshu bowed. Lu Zhou no longer looked at him. He knew that Shen Langshu wanted his protection by staying close to him. Now that dangers lurked in all corners of Liang Province's city, Shen Langshu might lose his life. At dusk, a sound wave rolled across the entire camp. The other tribesmen have invaded. Those of the Nether sect who are in or above the Brahman Sea realm. Follow me. Yu Hong flew past in his avatar. His 40-foot avatar was dazzling. The Nether sect cultivators rose into the air immediately. They followed Yu Hong and flew toward the city walls in the north. Invasion from the other tribes. Shen Langshu appeared shocked. Little Yuan saw the cultivators rising into the air and she clapped her hands excitedly. If this had happened in the past, she would have made a fuss about going to watch the show. She loved bustling scenes, but she was slightly anxious as well. When she remembered her master's admonishments, she immediately calmed down. Although she was a nascent divinity Tribulation Realm elite and the 9th disciple of the Evil Sky Pavilion, she had never witnessed such a scene. She instinctively grabbed Lu Zhou's arm. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "There's no need to be afraid." He appeared calm, but inwardly, he mused that he should have brought Ming Shi Yin along as well. The little girl was inexperienced. After all, the others exclaimed in surprise. They pointed at the near 1.000 cultivators who were flying toward the other end of the city. It was a majestic sight to behold. The top of the city walls was already filled with cultivators. Someone sighed. Such is war. There's some who sighed and some who were amazed. Those who liked to watch a good show undoubtedly enjoyed this. At this moment, there were also many Nether sect members who were running on foot in Liang Province's city. The ground shook as they ran through the streets. The general people were alarmed by this. Whiz, whiz. A huge avatar appeared at the city walls. A 70-foot avatar. Heavens. A 6-leaf elite. The avatar's height surpassed the city wall. Although the man-made city was towering and majestic, it dimmed in comparison to a 70-foot avatar. The other tribesmen are here. The others looked at the sky in the north. Around the huge avatar, black figures were swarming around it like flies as they attacked the avatar. The avatar was moving toward Liang Province's city. They're from Ruli. If there was a tribesman from Ruli, it was only natural for there to be someone from Lulan as well. Shen Langshu looked around himself and said, "Old mister, the Nether sect no longer has the time to care about us. This is a great chance for us to escape." Lu Zhou glanced at him and said nothing. Shen Langshu wanted to leave very badly, but in his current state, he would be cut into a million pieces if he were to try to escape on his own. Someone said with a clear voice, "A 70-foot avatar. It must be one of the Nether sect's 4 great protectors. It should be either Dai King or Yang Yan. We can't see anything from here." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Some of them flew to the tops of the nearby buildings, and some flew to the treetops to watch. The sudden appearance of the other tribesmen caught the cultivators in the Nether sect's camp off guard. About half of the 1.000 cultivators stayed on top of the towering city wall to stop the enemies from getting a foothold in the city. At the same time, they activated the mini formations on the city wall to attack the other tribesmen who were trying to invade the city from the air. The soldiers on land fortified the walls and the gates while reinforcing, resupplying, and healing the cultivators on the wall. When the battle between the cultivators was almost over, it was time for the mortals to take charge of the battlefield. The people on the front lines in the wars between nations were usually cultivators, unless there was no other choice. This was the foundation of Great Yan's empire. This was also one of the most basic ways of fighting in the cultivation world. When he saw the cultivators dropping above, Shen Langshu was awestruck. For a moment, he was rendered speechless. He mustered up his courage and asked, "Old mister, I wonder if I may ask you a question." "What is it?" Lu Zhou had been stroking his beard as he observed the battle above them. After the garrisons of Liang Province's city were defeated by the Nether sect, they could only rely on themselves to repel the other tribesmen. However, this should be within Si Wuya's calculations. Why did they appear so flustered and powerless? Was this deliberate? "Are you from the Luo sect?" "Old mister," Shen Langshu finally asked. "Why would you say that?" "Of the 3 sects, the Luo sect is the one skilled in archery. There are many elite archers in that sect. The Luo sect's patriarch is a peerless archer as well. He once killed a high-ranked beast with a single arrow in Heaven Moat Forest. Shen Langshu said respectfully. Fear still lingered in his heart from the arrow shot that he had endured. There are countless elite archers under the heavens. The Luo sect isn't worth mentioning. Lu Zhou replied apathetically. For a time, Shen Langshu was rendered speechless. He felt that Lu Zhou's arrogance was on another level. He even thought the Luo sect was too insignificant to mention. Naturally, he did not dare show his feelings. Instead, he asked, "Old mister, why don't you shoot at the other tribesmen from the skies?" Shen Langshu was a 5-leaf elite. After all, and yet, he could not block Lu Zhou's arrow. In his opinion, if Lu Zhou used all his strength and attacked the leader of the other tribes, it would do a lot to change the tide of the battle. He might be involved in many shady dealings, but he did not want the other tribesmen to set foot on Great Yan's lands. Lu Zhou continued to observe the battle on the city wall. He did not answer the question immediately. If he acted, he would surely expose himself. At that time, how was he going to capture Yu Zhenghai or Si Wuya? As usual, he was not in a rush to act. Finally, he replied, with the Nether sect's strength, it should be sufficient to deal with these other tribesmen. Shen Langshu dared not say anything else. Little Yuaner hugged Lu Zhou's arm. Most of her nervousness was gone by now. She was now curious. She said, "Master, I'd like to have a look." Lu Zhou had the same thought. "Let's go." The two of them hurried toward the city wall. Shen Langshu started. He looked to his left and right. The camp was deserted. He hastily shouted, "Wait for me." Currently, the safest place was being by the old man's side. In no time at all, the three of them were at the base of the city wall. They did not notice it from a distance, but the walls were extremely tall now that they were standing so close to it. They could not see the top of the wall from this spot. If the elites with their avatars were not flying in the air, it was almost impossible for them to witness the interesting battle from within the city. "Old mister, me, don't forget about me," Shen Langshu said anxiously. Lu Zhou waved his arm. The three of them flew toward the top of the city wall. Boom, 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 whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The loud sounds of the battle reached their ears. When the three of them landed on the top of the city wall, they were dumbstruck by what they saw. Two avatars, one about 50 foot tall and the other was 70 foot tall, were fighting against the other tribesmen valiantly on the fields beyond the city wall. The Vermilion Bird Hall's first seat, Yang Tan, swiftly increased the size of his avatar and repelled dozens of Ruli tribesmen. The Ruli tribesmen reeled and spat out mouthfuls of blood as they reeled from the impact. Even so, there were more Ro Li and Lu Lan tribesmen on the ground. The Lu Lan tribesmen were doing their best to cast spells as long as they could. Beams of purple energy shrouded the Ruli tribesmen in the air. The battle was too chaotic. Everyone was so preoccupied that nobody took notice of Lu Zhou and the others. The three of them stood at a vacant corner and looked down at the battle from their high vantage point. Shen Langshu gulped and said, "Even Yang Yan, one of the Nether sect's 4 great protectors. Is this powerful? Just how powerful are the other protectors? You're familiar with the Nether sect?" Lu Zhou glanced at Shen Langshu. Shen Langshu seemed to have forgotten that Lu Zhou was the one who had shot him. He said with a smile, "Everyone knows the sect master of the Nether sect master is the evil Sky Pavilion's first disciple." At this moment, Lu Zhou noticed that the Ruli tribesmen who reeled from the impact moments ago had risen back to their feet. They were ganging up on Yang Yan. Ruli tribesmen are nimble and quick on their feet. They didn't cultivate any of the Buddhist, Confucian, or Taoist methods. They worship the wild wolves and never act on their own. Their avatars are in the shapes of wolves as well. They have a tremendous self-healing ability and are incredibly resilient. Shen Langshu said, "However, the barbarians are barbarians. After all, it's not without reason that Great Yan is capable of intimidating the 12 nations." Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "You seem very confident in Great Yan." Shen Langshu sighed. "My confidence lies with Emperor Yong Shou. As for Yong King, forget it. There are words even the person on top of the whitelist doesn't dare to utter." "Old mister, The blacklist and whitelist don't rank people based on their cultivation bases. My ranking on the whitelist is nothing but a joke, Shen Langshu said. When he spoke, it could be seen that he thought being on the blacklist had more prestige. The first on the whitelist was merely a 5-leaf cultivator. Swoosh! At this moment, many Ruli tribesmen rose into the air. A unique avatar sprung up from the ground. Master, what's that? Little Yuanair pointed at a huge wolf avatar in the distance. The Wolf King avatar. Judging from its appearance, this should be a 6-leaf Wolf King avatar. Shen Langshu replied with a dark expression. At this moment, the Wolf King avatar launched itself into the air. It stepped on its golden lotus, on which 6 leaves were spinning and blooming. Little Yuanair asked curiously, why aren't there avatars in the form of humans? That's strange, they have golden lotuses as well. Lu Zhou said slowly, cultivation is built upon the cultivation methods and sutras left behind by the predecessors. The sutras contain the cultivation concepts of various sects. The concepts serve as guides for the mind and will. For instance, if I want to shape my energy into a saber, it will be a saber. He raised his right hand, and an energy saber materialized in his hand. If I want to turn it into a sword, it will be a sword. The energy saber morphed into an energy sword. Then, it transformed into various shapes before Lu Zhou finally clenched his fist to disperse the energy. It's the same with avatars. However, it's difficult to change the shapes of avatars after they're formed. Usually, its form is fixed in the early stages of cultivation, when the Confucian, Buddhist, and Taoist sects fought for dominance. Human cultivation reached a sort of golden era. 30,000 years have passed since then, and cultivation methods have branched out into numerous categories. The 3 different branches gave rise to 3 types of avatars. The other tribesmen who were influenced by Great Yan would cultivate the cultivation methods of Great Yan and obtain a humanoid avatar. On the other hand, those that are not influenced by Great Yan followed their own ancestral beliefs. The Ruli tribesmen worship the Wolf King. Therefore, they possess Wolf King avatars. Oh, Little Yuanair nodded. Ding! Instructed Little Yuanair. Reward. 200 merit points. Shen Langshu cupped his fists and said, I'm enlightened. Little Yuanair continued to ask, Master, are there really 10,000 other tribes? Lu Zhou was not too familiar with this topic. He could only give a general answer. However, to his surprise, Shen Langshu answered with a smile. Indeed, there are 10,000 other tribes recorded in the books. Liang Province's city alone has tribesmen from all over Great Yan who speak different languages. Let alone Rongxi and Rongbei. Throughout the years, they have been assimilated through wars. As time went by, it gradually led to the current state. As amazing as Great Yan. I won't go so far as to say that. Shen Langshu replied. Little Yuanair pointed at the Wolf King avatar in the air and said, why does the Wolf King avatar have a golden lotus as well? That is, if they hadn't learned Great Yan's cultivation methods in secret. Shen Langshu was stumped by the question. He had never considered this before. Master, why is that so? Little Yuanair's asking too many questions today. Lu Zhou's expression was calm. Fortunately, the skin on his wizened face was sufficiently thick. Nobody could read his thoughts. However, he found it strange as well. Even with Ji Tiandao's rich experience, he found no answer in his memories. If it were the theory of the cultivation methods of the Confucian, Buddhist, and Taoist sects, thoughts supported the spirit and will, and the will determines the appearance of the avatar. If the other tribesmen did not understand these theories, why did they manifest golden lotuses as well? Who could explain this? Lu Zhou stroked his beard before he finally said, perhaps, it's just like how humans and animals need food for sustenance. They're fundamentally the same. Little Yuanair scratched her head to show that she did not understand this. At this moment, the 6-leaf Wolf King avatar lunged at Yang Yan's 6-leaf avatar. Boom! Energy flowed turbulently in the air, and a strong gust of wind blew violently. Anyone who was too close to the fight was swept off their feet by the wind. Protector Yang, I'll help you. Yu Hong shot toward Yang Yan with his 4-leaf avatar in tow. It was now a 2-against-1 battle. The Ruli elite fought more valiantly as the battle dragged on. There were several hundred Lulan tribesmen behind him. They supported him with witchcraft spells. What a pain. When little Yuan saw the spells, she stomped her feet. She wanted to charge into the battlefield and slaughter the witchcraft cultivators. Lu Zhou said, "There's no need to worry about minor witchcraft cultivators. Without a grand shaman like Mo Li and Ba Ma, these supporting spells would not be able to turn the tides of the battle." Moreover, this was outside Liang Province's city. There was no huge formation. Witchcraft was not very powerful here. Boom, boom, boom. The Ruli elite launched 3 attacks in quick succession. His Wolf King avatar split into 3. 2 of them pounced at Yang Yan while the other pounced at Yu Hong. Yang Yan retreated hastily. He moved his avatar toward the city wall. Yu Hong was only a 4-leaf cultivator. Having been hit by that heavy blow, he reeled. Halfway in the air, he recalled his avatar. That Ruli elite is powerful. Little Yuan was shocked. Her urge to charge into the battlefield was instantly quelled. She quickly hugged her master's arm. The Wolf King avatar has great explosive power and has amazing offenses. Yang Yan must have spent too much of his energy before this battle. If this were a fair battle, Yang Yan would never lose. Lu Zhou said, "Oh, the problem was, there was no fairness in the world." The archers on the city wall knocked their energy arrows and shot volleys after volleys arrow at the flying other tribesmen. At this moment, a cultivator flew toward the city wall and announced loudly, "This is bad. The 4th prince is launching a counterattack from the south." Yang Yan hovered in midair. The city wall was too vast. He could not even see who had made the announcement, let alone Lu Zhou and the others who were standing on the crowded city wall. Yang Yan said, "Lu Bing has colluded with the other tribesmen. Notify Mr. 7th of this." Understood. The Nether sect was instantly put in a precarious situation. They were pincered. At the moment, they could rely on the city wall and the protection of the formation. There was no rush for now. However, if this dragged on, the Nether sect would surely fall into a disadvantageous position. What's Si Wuya playing at? The cultivators who were perched on the branches gazed at the Wolf King. Someone cursed. The other tribesmen are insufferable bullies. They're despicable. Although the Nether sect's on the fiend path, they know enough to oppose the other tribes at least. What's the 4th prince, Lu Bing, thinking by colluding with the other tribes? Why aren't they activating the formation? They can't. The Nether sect easily conquered this city because the formations have been nullified. If the 6 great generals of the 4th prince are here, the Nether sect will be in trouble. They continued the discussion. The strongest among them was only in the Brahman C8 Meridian's realm. They could not be of any help at all. At most, they could help clean up the small fries when the battle was nearing its end. Yang Yan hovered in the air. He frowned as he looked at the Ruli elites in front of him. Meanwhile, Yu Hong was not at as high an altitude as he was before. A loud explosion reverberated in the air as he flew back and crashed on the city wall. The city wall was damaged. However, since it was ridiculously thick, it did not crumble. Yu Hong fell to the ground. He supported his weight with one hand as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The Nether sect had suffered considerable losses. Their opponents were in no better shape as well. Both sides were in a similar state. Yang Yan said loudly, "Ha Luo. The people of Ruli have always been subservient to Great Yan. Are you trying to rebel?" His thunderous voice resonated through the city wall and the city. The Ruli elite, Ha Luo, was also hovering in the air in the distance. He crossed his arms and said disdainfully, "To quote the words of your own people, the times have changed. Do you really think Great Yan is weak?" Yang Yan asked. If Great Yan was truly weak, the Nether sect would have long conquered it. Would they have waited for the other tribes to make a move? Lu Bing has promised us 3 of Liang Province's 10 cities if we help him take down the Nether sect. Ha Luo replied. In other words, could the Nether sect make a better offer? There were no such things as eternal enemies in the world. Benefit was all that mattered. Ha Luo's words were loaded. If the Nether sect could offer 4 cities or more, the other tribesmen would turn against Lu Bing without hesitation. When he heard this, Lu Zhou was slightly taken aback. Lu Bing had been at the borders for many years. Why would he resort to such a humiliating act? The people who lived at the borders were the ones who truly understood how difficult it was to gain every inch of land. Every bit of Great Yan's territory was paid for by the blood of the valiant warriors. How could they give him away this easily? Alas, you're up against the Nether sect. Yang Yan's sound wave was imposing. Yang Yan, we've fought for 3 days and 3 nights. All the way from the barren plains in the west to Liang Province's city. You're skilled, I'll give you that. If you know what's good for you, you'll obediently surrender. Ha Luo's sound wave rolled out. A number of Lu Lan cultivators rose into the air and gathered. They were all cultivators. They did not have any mortals in their troops. There were easily more than 2,000 of them. On the Nether sect's side, there were only more than 1,000 cultivators. The people of Ruli and Lu Lan had the upper hand in terms of numbers. Boom! Rumble! The sound of colliding avatars reached them from high above the eastern skies. Every cultivator turned to look. It was too far away. They could only see a brief flash of golden light. Catching a turtle in a jar. Shen Langshu wondered. Or maybe, a diversion. What do you mean? Little Yuanair did not understand Shen Langshu's words. Si Wuya isn't dumb. There's a chance that Yang Yan is only a bait. When the time comes, the Nether sect will sound a full retreat. The wolf won't leave the city easily once it's inside. Shen Langshu said. Lu Zhou looked at Shen Langshu. His analysis seemed to make sense. He immediately held little Yuana's hand and said, "Let's go. It was better to be safe than sorry." The other tribesmen launched another wave of attack. Some of their men flew up to the city wall. This time, Yang Yan said decisively, "Retreat." Lu Zhou, little Yuanair, and Shen Langshu leaped off the city wall and flew toward the center of the city at a low altitude. The situation was too chaotic. There were cultivators everywhere. "Master, what about the commoners?" Little Yuanair asked. Shen Langshu shook his head and said, "There's no need to worry. On the first night of the Nether sect's attack, most of the civilians were already evacuated. This isn't some prehistoric era. The evacuation was done quickly. No wonder we didn't see many people when we arrived." Little Yuanair was hit with a sudden realization. The 3 of them flew side by side as they observed the situation in the city. Although most of the civilians had been evacuated, there were still many cultivators and mortals inside the city. They were looting the residences and establishments while all hell broke loose around them. Shen Langshu was one of these people. There was never a shortage of such individuals regardless of the era. "Look toward the east." Shen Langshu pointed east. The cultivators who were watching the show from atop the branches had stopped to witness a shocking scene. 2 avatars, both 70 to 80 feet tall, flew side by side. Behind them, a handful of avatars followed closely. The Nether sect's remaining great protectors. There's a huge flying chariot as well. This is bad. The Nether sect's retreating. The cultivators leaped off the branches and began heading east. Lu Zhou decided to land as he looked at the 3 great protectors flying south. They were soon reunited with Yang Yan before they disappeared. Lu Zhou frowned slightly. As expected, that rascal is drawing the enemy in. When an army of more than 1,000 men chose to retreat on such short notice, they were clearly planning something. They looked at the western city wall. The people of Ruli and Lu Lan had entered the city. They were flying slowly in a square formation made out of roughly 2,000 men. They flew at such a speed because they were wary of traps in the city. The witchcraft cultivators flew at the forefront. They kept unleashing purple radiant circles as they looked out for any formations in the vicinity. "Let's go." The battle was now between Lu Bing and the other tribes. In here, Lu Zhou pointed at one of the buildings in the city. The 3 of them entered the building. The moment they went in, they heard the sounds of a fierce battle breaking out in the south. The expansive heavenly energy had been unleashed. Didn't the Nether sect retreat to the south? Why is there a battle now? Shen Langshu went to the southern side of the building and gazed out the window. He could not help but widen his eyes. Great Yan's army. A lady in embroidered clothes wielded a pink umbrella as she engaged the Nether sect in a fierce battle. Sister Jingyi. Little Yuanair recognized the lady. Li Jingyi. Lu Zhou looked out as well. That 7-leaf female avatar. Those shocking moves. There was no doubting it was Li Jingyi. Wasn't Wei Zhuoyan defeated in Yi province? Why is he here in Liang province? Lu Zhou remembered Jiang Aijian. That fellow. Is he Si Wuya's bane? The tides of the battle turned again. Li Jingyi's not a match for the 4 great protectors on her own. The divine capital must have sent 8 leaf elites. It's over. The Nether sect is done for, Shen Langshu said. The other tribesmen, Lu Bing and Li Jingyi. The Nether sect was pressured on 3 fronts. On the other hand, the 4 great protectors hovered in the air. Shen Langshu's heart raced when he saw this. It seemed like a checkmate to him. Would the greatest fiend sect under the heavens be crushed at the battle in Liang province? I wouldn't be so sure about that. Lu Zhou shook his head. You don't think so, old mister? If Yu Zhenghai is here, he could turn the tides. Lu Zhou said. Shen Langshu's eyes widened. Lu Zhou, little Yuan, and Shen Langshu looked at the Nether sect's flying chariot at the same time. Was Yu Zhenghai on board the flying chariot? Shen Langshu was in no mood to think about those matters. His mind was currently focused on finding a way out of here. The most powerful forces were gathered in Liang province. It seemed coincidental and premeditated at the same time. Liang province city was suddenly silent. The avatars vanished. The surging of primal chi and energy died down as well. Lu Zhou looked at the sky above Liang province's city through the window. Nearly 1,000 Nether sect cultivators surrounded the huge flying chariot. They positioned themselves back to back in 3 directions. The square formation to the west was formed by 2,000 men from Lu Lan and Ruli. The people of Lu Lan wore long, flamboyant robes with bright feathers on their heads. The people of Ruli seemed more capable and experienced. There were shades of red, blue, and green gleaming in their eyes. When they saw Lu Bing's troops, the other tribesmen retracted their avatars and witchcraft spells. They shifted their square formation. The people of Ruli were now in front. To the north were the current 4th prince of Great Yan, Lu Bing, and his 6 great generals. Apart from his troops below, there were no less than 2,000 cultivators in the air. Lu Bing sat atop a red war chariot. His sharp eyes were fixed on the Nether sect's huge chariot. To the east was Li Jingyi. There was a small flying chariot behind her that was covered by a veil. Since the rider could repel the Nether sect's 4 great protectors, the rider was certainly not Wei Zhuoyan. It had to be one of the 8 chiefs of the Imperial Guards sent by the palace. However, without seeing the person's face, it was difficult to be completely sure. The troops of the 3 forces surrounded the Nether sect's flying chariot. ... Shen Langshu lowered his voice and said, the Nether sect can only flee south. Alas, that's where most of the formation traps are. You don't wish to see the Nether sect captured. Lu Zhou looked at Shen Langshu. Shen Langshu shook his head and said, I don't. However, if Yu Zhenghai isn't here right now, this is a checkmate. Lu Zhou looked at the flying chariot in the air with his hands on his back. Little Yuan snorted and said, how shameless of them to win by numbers. Shen Langshu began to view little Yuan in a different light after her little outburst. This little girl seemed fierce back then, but now, she looks kind of cute. Lu Zhou said, remember, there's nothing such as fairness in the cultivation world. I know, master. Little Yuan nodded obediently. ... In the sky, the 4th prince, Lu Bing, was the one to break the long silence. Lu Bing stood on his war chariot. He cupped his fists at Li Jingyi and said, I wonder which Imperial Guard chief who came to help up in such a timely manner. The divine capital's guardian of the west, Xiang Lai, offers his greetings, Your 4th Highness. The voice was deep and powerful. It sounded slightly weathered as well. Everyone said that the divine capital was a den for crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It was true. There was even a rumor that half of the 8 leaf experts in the world were in the divine capital. However, this had yet to be verified. As time went by, the people understood that regardless of the profundity of their cultivation base, they had to keep a low profile in the divine capital. I see. It's Uncle Xiang. I've been rude, Lu Bing said as he cupped his hands together. The other tribesmen were slightly shocked. Great Yan was more powerful than the 10,000 tribes for a reason. Their respect for experts alone was something the other tribes could learn from. Ha Luo laughed loudly and said, It's been a while, Your 4th Highness. Lu Bing snorted. As old adversaries, he knew Ha Luo very well. He said, Ha Luo, I'll put our past grudges aside for now. At the moment, it's more important to deal with the Nether sect. That won't do. Ha Luo raised a hand and wagged his index finger. Isn't that tantamount to me allowing you to attack me after you've dealt with your internal dispute? Impudent, Xiang Lai bellowed from behind Li Jingyi. His voice thundered and rolled toward Ha Luo. Among the huge square formation, the witchcraft cultivator's robes shone with a purple light. They resonated with each other. Whiz! They negated the sound wave. Even so, a frightened expression appeared on Ha Luo's face. He was clearly shaken by the sound wave. He asked, "Your Fourth Highness, is this what your hospitality looks like? Uncle Xiang's temper has always been this way. You're from Ruli, and the witchcraft cultivators from Lulan are behind you. We're only taking what we need from each other. You and I," Lu Bing replied. Ha Luo said in a deep voice. The Nether sect's Yu Zhenghai once charged into Lulan alone and killed up to 10,000 cultivators. He used his strength to mistreat my people. I will avenge my kinsman, and I won't rest until I've succeeded. I'll take you up on your offer today. My adversary. Lu Zhou shook his head when he heard this. Since Yu Zhenghai left the evil sky pavilion, his actions had always been controversial. If Lu Lan was not subservient to Great Yan, it would be a big deal to kill the other tribesmen in Lulan. However, Lulan had paid its tithes and even offered its own princesses since it pledged its allegiance to Great Yan. Yu Zhenghai's actions had put great strain on the relationship between Great Yan and Lulan. Shen Langshu said skeptically, although Sect Master Yu is the evil Sky Pavilion's first disciple, he's not someone who acts without rhyme or reason. He won't attack the people of Lulan for no reason. Not someone who acts without rhyme and reason. Lu Zhou asked, raising an eyebrow. If he's not charismatic, he wouldn't be able to stay the master of a sect with hundreds of thousands of members or gain the unswerving loyalty of the four great protectors. Shen Langshu said, managing one's subordinates was an art. Lu Zhou nodded. In this regard, his host, Ji Tiandao, was not as accomplished as his own disciple, Yu Zhenghai. In the sky, a voice dripping with contempt rang from the Nether sect's flying chariot. Isn't it too early to say talk about taking down the Nether sect? The Azure Dragon Hall's first seat, Hua Chongyang, walked out in his long robes. He looked around before finally resting his gaze on the flying chariot behind Li Jingyi. The only person the four great protectors were wary about was Xiang Lai. Lu Bing said, Hua Chongyang, all these years, you've wreaked havoc all around Great Yan. The imperial family has always viewed this as a quarrel of the cultivation world and turned a blind eye to it. However, this doesn't mean that you can do whatever you like. How dare you covet the imperial family's authority? The powerful rules and the mediocre serves. This has always been the way of the world. Have the people ever enjoyed a good day in their lives since Lu Gu ascended the throne? Hua Chongyang asked. Those who covet the throne had always argued in the people's favor. Lu Bing laughed and said, Hua Chongyang, you're not fit to talk to me yet. Tell your sect master to show himself. Who do you think you are? You think you're worthy of meeting our sect master just because you want to? Lu Bing said, it's useless to try to win with words. You don't have a choice. The cultivators on three sides advanced slightly. They were now 100 meters away from the Nether sect. The atmosphere was tense. A great battle could break out at any moment. Hua Chongyang calmly said, you might not be a match for the Nether sect if we get serious about this battle. Xiang Lai, are you brave enough to withstand a blade strike from my sect master? He projected his voice to the flying chariot behind Li Jingyi. On board the flying chariot, Xiang Lai frowned, his hands on the chair's armrest clenched into fists. His knuckles whitened, and he shook slightly. He said nothing. Hua Chongyang continued, Lu Bing, would the 6 generals behind you dare to fight Bai Yuqing and me? Hua Chongyang and Bai Yuqing were both 7-leaf cultivators. They were more than enough to deal with the 6 generals. Among the 6, there were 4 5-leafs, 1 7-leaf, and 1 6-leaf cultivators. In theory, Hua Chongyang and Bai Yuqing had the upper hand. Ha Luo, you've pursued Yang Yan for so long. Do you really think that Yang Yan and Dai King can't take you down? Hua Chongyang asked. It had to be said. He was adept at handling the situation. When he compared their strength in this manner, the Nether sect did appear to have the upper hand. So what if they were going up against 3 forces? If they were to fight in earnest, the outcome was not set in stone. You can save your psychological warfare. You Zhenghai, if you're man enough, come out and fight me now. Boom. Xiang Lai slammed his palms on the armrests, and he flew into the air. He looked down at the Nether sect's flying chariot with his hands on his back. His body was wrapped in layers of energy. Various shining, golden glyphs and talisman seals appeared around him. When Shen Langshu saw this, he said in a hushed voice, Xiang Lai is from the Celestial Masters sect. The Celestial Masters sect was skilled in Taoist talismans. As the name suggested, they imposed Taoist seals on talisman seals. The Celestial Masters sect was a major sect that developed the Taoist and talisman seals to a great height. Come out, you Zhenghai. Xiang Lai looked down from the skies. Xiang Lai's temper was similar to Duan Musheng's temper. They both had a quick and fiery temper. He did not seem to care if the people around him could withstand the impact from the sound waves he sent out with his primal chi. He did as he liked. The warriors above and below him had to cover their ears in fear and trepidation. Everyone's attention was focused on the flying chariot. They were all waiting for a reply. Most of them were rather certain that Yu Zhenghai was not present at all. If he were here, surely he would not have submitted himself to being surrounded on multiple sides. Hua Chongyang was about to reply when a soft and melodious voice rang from Lu Bing's war chariot. Uncle Xiang. Xiang Lai frowned. He looked at Lu Bing's war chariot. Everyone's gaze shifted from Xiang Lai to the war chariot. Clearly, the voice belonged to a lady. They saw a beautiful lady with charming features. Yong Ning, a graceful and delicate lady, stepped into the air from the war chariot. She wore red clothes and had pearls on her hair. Her eyes twinkled like the stars in the skies. This was Great Yan's Princess Yong Ning. Lu Wenjun. In a hidden building, when little Yuan saw Princess Yong Ning, she giggled and said, Master, Sister Yong Ning is pretty. Lu Zhou waved his hand. A weak energy barrier appeared around them. He thought it was better to be cautious. After all, their voices could alert the elites to their presence. Princess Yong Ning curtsied at Xiang Lai. However, her gesture frightened Xiang Lai. Although he was older than her and was respected by her, he did not dare to allow the princess to bow at him. He was merely a subject of the empire after all. He raised a palm, and a surge of energy held Princess Yong Ning in place. He said, I do not deserve this good fortune. Princess. Princess Yong Ning smiled faintly. She seemed to bask in the glory of spring as she said, Uncle Xiang, didn't you go to Yi province? I was just passing by. It was clearly an excuse. Liang province was to the north of Yi province. It was not a place that he would pass by. So, it's Princess Yong Ning, the ruling chief. Ha Luo bowed at Yong Ning. He placed his right hand on his left shoulder as he smiled. At this moment, Lu Bing said, Yong Ning, this is not the time for casual conversations. Princess Yong Ning asked, Are we really going to fight? Xiang Lai frowned and said, Yong Ning, if you're planning to plead for the Nether sect, you'd better forget it. Please step aside. Nobody would be able to look after you when the battle starts. Lu Bing looked at Yong Ning and said, Do you know why my father allowed me to bring you here? How could Yong Ning not know? However, she was neither annoyed nor angry. She only calmly smiled as she said, Don't mind me. Her words seemed to be directed at Lu Bing and the people in the flying chariot. Bring her down. Lu Bing waved his hand. Two of the generals brought Yong Ning back to the war chariot. The moment Lu Bing's voice faded, Hua Chongyang made the first move. An avatar that was 80 to 90 feet tall appeared. Bai Yuqing, fight alongside me. Roger. Bai Yuqing did not unleash his avatar. The two of them charged at Lu Bing at lightning speed. The flying chariot retreated. The 6 generals' expressions darkened as they went up to meet them. The two sides were immediately engaged in a fierce battle. Energies from both sides collided. The soldiers below retreated. Boom, boom, boom. The loud collision between the avatars rang in everyone's ears. The battle was a dazzling sight. Ha Luo summoned his Wolf King avatar again. He sneered as he looked at the flying chariot. Ha Luo, I'm your opponent. Yang Yan and Dai King leaped from the flying chariot and charged toward the square formation of the other tribesmen. At this moment, the 4 great protectors had left the flying chariot. The cultivators around the Nether sect's flying chariot gathered and circulated their primal chi. They cast a huge barrier that enveloped the chariot. Xiang Lai laughed. Such is the will of the heavens. Not even your 4 subordinates have the chance to protect you. Yu Zhenghai, die. He raised a hand and struck with his palm. A huge talisman seal flew toward the flying chariot. Boom! The talisman seal landed on the flying chariot and vanished. Xiang Lai frowned. He looked at the formation veins on the flying chariot and exclaimed in shock. The formation veins of the Celestial Masters sect. Meanwhile, Yang Yan and Dai King were engaged with the other tribesmen in an intense battle. It felt as though the entire Liang province's city was occupied by avatars. The cultivators inside the city looked up at the eye-catching battle in the sky. The 4 great protectors somehow managed to stand their own ground against the 2 forces. However, how would the remaining men around the flying chariot defend against the attacks of the 8-leaf elite? Xiang Lai. It was exceptionally quiet in the flying chariot. The Nether sect disciples defended the flying chariot with unflagging effort. They believed in the person on board the flying chariot even if it cost them their lives. Xiang Lai said, Yu Zhenghai, I've underestimated you. Are you planning to cower in there your entire life? There was no reply. Inside the building, Lu Zhou did not pay attention to the 4 great protectors' battles. Instead, his attention was completely focused on the flying chariot. He was also wondering if Yu Zhenghai was on board the flying chariot. Yu Zhenghai was the only person who could turn the tides of the battle. Xiang Lai laughed. He raised his palm again and struck at the flying chariot. A huge offensive Taoist talisman seal shone with dazzling brilliance. Boom! The flying chariot swayed. Creak, creak, creak. The formation veins were beginning to crack. This is bad, Sect Master. I'm coming. The Azure Dragon Hall's second seat. Yu Hong leaped onto the chariot. Meanwhile, Hua Chongyang and Bai Yuqing had the upper hand in their battle. Hua Chongyang glanced at the flying chariot and said, Bai Yuqing, reinforce the flying chariot. I'll handle this. Roger. Bai Yuqing circulated his expansive heavenly energy. From his position in the air, he charged toward Xiang Lai. Hua Chongyang immediately felt the pressure on him rise as he fought against 6 opponents. 6 avatars surrounded him like a game of Go. The thunderous clashing sounds showed no signs of stopping. For a battle such as this, the opponents no longer had the leisure to mind the buildings on the ground. Most of the city was now reduced to rubble. Bai Yuqing came at Xiang Lai from the side. Xiang Lai sneered and said, A 7-leaf cultivator is just a 7-leaf cultivator. After all, he joined his palms together and made hand signs. Dozens of talismans shot toward Bai Yuqing. Bai Yuqing looked shocked as he activated his expansive heavenly energy. Boom, 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 boom. There was a difference in their realms. After all, Bai Yuqing reeled back and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Kill the Nether sect's 4 great protectors. Yu Zhenghai is not on board the flying chariot. Xiang Lai was confident. He knew Yu Zhenghai very well. If Yu Zhenghai were here, he would have already joined the battle. Yu Zhenghai would not hide in the flying chariot. Xiang Lai's voice resounded across the battlefield. Ha Luo sneered. His Wolf King avatar grew larger. Yang Yan, Dai King, do you really think that 6-leaf cultivators can lead an army? Whiz. The golden lotus under the Wolf King avatar's paws enlarged as well. There was a cracking sound from one edge of the golden lotus. A leaf sprouted. Before long, 7 leaves spun around the golden lotus. Ha Luo looked domineering as he stood among the people in the square formation. Boom, boom, boom. Yang Yan and Dai King were immediately sent flying back by the Wolf King. The instant their avatars vanished, they spat out a mouthful of blood. It was clear that Hua Chongyang would not be able to hold it any longer as well. Xiang Lai nodded in satisfaction before he dove toward the flying chariot. Boom! The formation veins cracked further. Boom! The formation veins shattered. The more than 1,000 cultivators of the Nether sect fell from Xiang Lai's 2 sweeping attacks. Xiang Lai landed on the flying chariot. His primal chi surged. It traveled from his Danshan sea of chi to the soles of his feet before it flowed throughout the flying chariot. With this, he took control of the Nether sect's flying chariot. As expected, it's empty, Xiang Lai said smugly as he was about to turn to face Hua Chongyang. Suddenly, whoosh, a figure struck Xiang Lai's back at lightning speed. As an accomplished cultivator, Xiang Lai had sensed the threat at his back. He quickly activated his protective energy. Too late. Boom. Xiang Lai stumbled forward. A strange power easily breached his protective energy. Pooh. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Uncle Xiang, Lu Bing, who was hovering above his war chariot, cried out. He looked horrified when he witnessed this scene. His eyes immediately found the other person in the chariot. It was not Yu Zhenghai. Instead, it was the evil Sky Pavilion's seventh disciple, Si Wuya. Si Wuya retracted his palm. Several talismans burst into flames in his hands and scattered in the air. Yu Hong leaped onto the flying chariot while enduring the pain in his body and maintaining the flying chariot's altitude. Mr. Seventh, you did it. Si Wuya walked forward slowly with a calm expression on his face. He walked to the helm of the flying chariot and looked down at Xiang Lai. He said loudly, "You're unlucky. I've been studying the Celestial Master's sect's mantra for a long time. I didn't expect to be able to use it on you." The things in the world were either complementary or antagonistic. An eight-leaf cultivator was not without weaknesses. Si Wuya had been studying the Celestial Master's sect's mantras cautiously and conscientiously when he was trying to break his master's mantra some time ago. Apart from that, his eldest senior brother even went through the trouble of procuring a lot of talismans for him to help him break the mantra. He had used all the talismans in one go during his attack. However, this one attack was more than enough. Boom! Xiang Lai crashed onto the ground. Si Wuya knew that Xiang Lai was not dead. However, he was satisfied with gravely injuring Xiang Lai. Yang Yan, Dai King, and Bai Yuqing returned, injured. Hua Chongyang was the only one left fending off his opponents. Si Wuya looked at Lu Bing and said, "Lu Bing, from the moment you set foot onto Liang Province City, you've lost. Xiang Lai is a minor accident. However, has it ever crossed your mind that the formations in Liang Province's city's formation are actually untouched?" Si Wuya's words caused Lu Bing's warriors to exchange glances among themselves. "You did this on purpose." Lu Bing's brows were tightly knitted together. "You can say that. Also, these other tribesmen, from the beginning until the end, they're nothing but uncivilized animals to me." Si Wuya's words grated on their ears. When Ha Luo heard this, he was infuriated. His Wolf King avatar was activated again. Perhaps, they were also angered by Si Wuya's words. The 2.000 witchcraft cultivators in the square formation looked at the skies in unison and released thick purple smoke from their bodies. The Wolf King avatar absorbed the purple smoke and grew larger. Ha Luo said loudly, "Do you really think you've foreseen everything?" Bai Yuqing hastily went up to Si Wuya's side and said, "Mr. Seventh, I request you to retreat. The plan has succeeded. If we retreat now, Ha Luo will surely turn on Lu Bing." Yang Yan and Dai King bowed as well. Si Wuya knew that Ha Luo had been holding back. All these years, he and Yu Zhenghai were the only ones who knew how much they understood the other tribes. "Retreat. Act according to plan." Lu Bing made a grabbing motion. Princess Yongning was held up in the air. He had no choice. "Si Wuya, are you bold enough to run away? I won't let you reap the benefits from our battle here." "Yongning," Si Wuya frowned. The three great protectors bowed again. "Mr. Seventh, please act according to the plan." Si Wuya looked at Princess Yongning, who was being held up in the air. Yongning's expression was calm. She did not panic or struggle. She was even smiling warmly as she looked at Si Wuya on the flying chariot. A hint of satisfaction could be seen in her smile. This was enough for her. She raised her right hand slightly, and an energy sword materialized in her hand. "Please carry on with your plan." With a decisive and forceful thrust, Yongning stabbed her own chest. When one was uncertain, it would be easy to fall into a dilemma. When all hell broke loose, the options that were available would seem ridiculously difficult to pick. The movements of the energy sword were reflected in Si Wuya's eyes. He felt as though something had tugged on his heartstrings. With a tap of his feet, he shot toward Yongning like a fired arrow. A couple with a bitter fate. The evil Sky Pavilion's Mr. Seventh. This is all both of you will amount to. Within the moving Grand Witchcraft formation, Ha Luo had forcibly raised his Wolf King avatar to the 8-leaf stage. The 8-leaf Wolf King flew towards Si Wuya. Mr. Seventh. Every fiber in Yongning's body told her that she had to remain calm. She wanted to remain calm. But when she saw Si Wuya flying to her, she could not control her expression, and she wanted herself to remain calm as well. Why? Si Wuya had always regarded himself as a cold-blooded man who would never be shaken by anything. However, the moment the energy sword sank into Yongning's body, he felt as if his own heart was stabbed. Blood sprayed everywhere. Her garment was dyed red. Si Wuya launched countless palm seals in a frenzy. He repelled Lu Bing's war chariot and caught Lu Ning. Unfortunately, the Wolf King avatar swiped its claws and leaving gashes on his back. Boom! Si Wuya's clothes on his upper body were shredded. He held Princess Yongning tightly and fell toward the buildings in the distance like a kite with a severed thread. Ha Luo was extremely delighted by this. He laughed uproariously. It seems like I'll be the big winner today. He waved his arm. The square formation dissolved. The witchcraft cultivators could not maintain the 8-leaf avatar for too long. The outcome was set. All that was left was to clean things up. The witchcraft cultivators dived toward the Nether sect disciples on the ground. Hua Chongyang could not hold them back. Eventually, he was sent flying by the 6 generals. Was everything over? Amidst the rubble, Si Wuya supported Princess Yongning with one arm. For a time, he was speechless. A dark expression could be seen on his face. He maintained this position for a long time until he no longer could and spat out a mouthful of blood. Unable to suppress the surging blood essence in his body, he had to let go of her as he supported his own weight with both hands on the ground. Just when Yongning was about to fall, Si Wuya willed himself to rise and catch Yongning. He looked up at the battlefield. Did the plan fail, all because of his own recklessness? The more than 1,000 disciples of the Nether sect were instantly surrounded by Lu Bing's troops and the people of Lu Lan and Ruli. Yongning opened her eyes slightly. She raised her right hand that was stained with blood and grabbed Si Wuya's arm. She asked weakly, "Why?" Si Wuya shook his head. His face was pale. He did not know the answer, nor did he want an answer. All he knew was, at this moment, it felt as though a huge boulder was weighing down on his heart. His face remained as emotionless and cold as ever, like a robot. Bam! The huge chariot in the skies broke at this moment. Run, now! I can't. Si Wuya shook his head. He sounded helpless. Without the flying chariot, how was she supposed to escape? At this moment, he felt as though he had let everyone down. The 4 great protectors, his brethren in the Nether sect, and Yongning, who was willing to die for him. Si Wuya prided himself on being able to handle various situations that were thrown at him. However, at this moment, he was lost. Yongning's blood stained his arm. He could not seem to focus to think of a countermeasure. He was not only suffering, but he was annoyed to no end as well. He forced himself to remain calm. What should I do? Am I going to sit here and look on as everyone else dies before my eyes? Creak, creak, creak. An old but energetic figure appeared next to Si Wuya at this moment. Si Wuya frowned and slowly looked up. He shuddered involuntarily. His eyes were filled with incredulity. The old man looked indifferent. He was stroking his beard with one hand while the other was resting on his back. A little girl and a nervous middle-aged man stood next to him. The world seemed to have fallen silent at this moment. After some time, Si Wuya finally spoke with a trembling voice. Master. Lu Zhou shook his head. He said, "Rascal. This disciple." Si Wuya could not string his words together. He seemed to have lost his vocal cords. When Shen Langshu saw Si Wuya, he felt extremely nervous. After all, this was one of the most legendary personas of the Evil Sky Pavilion. The mere thought of being able to greet him at such close range was something wonderful and exciting. However, what did Si Wuya mean by master? He was baffled. He turned to look at the old man standing next to him. The 4 great protectors clashed violently with their opponents. Energy seals sailed in the sky. The sounds of the battle made it difficult for one to remain calm. Lu Zhou lowered his gaze and looked at the scene in front of him. He asked, "Is this your choice?" Si Wuya pushed and nudged Princess Yongning toward Little Yuanair. Little junior sister. Little Yuanair supported Yongning and went to stand at the side. Si Wuya was bare-chested. He wiped the blood off the edge of his lips. He kowtowed at Lu Zhou respectfully. Master, please help me. Shen Langshu. Quote. He stumbled backward, his eyes wide. He stumbled back again, putting some distance between him and the others. He looked at Lu Zhou again. Yes, that bearing, that air. The old man whom Shen Langshu worshipped and respected was right there before his eyes. This was the Evil Sky Pavilion's patriarch, the first name on the blacklist, the master of the 9 disciples. Tiandao. Thud. Shen Langshu fell limply on his buttocks. Little Yuan turned to look at him. She asked, "What are you doing?" "No, nothing. It's nothing." Shen Luangshu wanted to cry. He suddenly remembered little Yuan had ordered him to kneel before her master in Shen Villa back. Who knew she was not lying? Meanwhile, Lu Zhou was not concerned about Shen Langshu's feelings. Moreover, even if Shen Langshu knew from the beginning, it would not change the outcome. He said to Si Wuya, "What does this have to do with me?" Lu Zhou's expression remained apathetic as always. "You're the ones who brought this upon yourselves. Now that you're in this state, you expect me to clean up after you." Boom, boom, boom. The Nether sect's huge chariot crashed to the ground under the attacks of the Wolf King avatar. It destroyed numerous buildings in the process. One leaf detached from the Wolf King avatar. However, it still possessed the might of a 7-leaf avatar. The 4 great protectors had retreated since they were injured. Moreover, the casualties on the Nether sect's side was not trivial. Lu Bing did not move. His 6 generals hovered in the air and did not continue to attack. The changes on the battlefield were as such. They could never let down their guard against any enemy, even more so when they were facing the other tribesmen. However, Ha Luo would not let such a rare opportunity slip past his fingers. "Your 4th Highness, what are you standing there for? Can you really rest in peace when the Nether sect's 4 great protectors remain?" Lu Bing's brows were knitted together. He looked at Ha Luo, who seemed to be beside himself with joy. He could foresee that Ha Luo would bare his fangs at him after the Nether sect was dealt with. However, he had no choice but to order for his men to continue their assault on the 4 great protectors. "Li Jingyi, you're Wei Zhuoyan's subordinate. General Xiang is injured. Shouldn't you stop them?" Li Jingyi, who was hovering in the air with the paper umbrella, seemed stunned. From the beginning up until now, she had yet to make a single move. She had been hiding in the corner where the others would not notice. However, she was still found by Lu Bing. 3 avatars flew towards Si Wuya. Meanwhile, several palm seals rained down on him as wide area attacks. Several palm prints flew out horizontally. The buildings around them crumbled. The sun's rays fell on Si Wuya, Lu Zhou, little Yuan, and Shen Langshu. At this moment, many pairs of eyes were looking at them. Lu Bing turned to look. Li Jingyi turned to look. The 4 great protectors were stunned. Why did that old man look familiar? Ha Luo and Xiang Lai, who was struggling to get up from the rubble, were looking as well. Who's that? Lu Bing felt his breath quickened. His heart felt as though it was going to jump out of his chest. Why is he here? Xiang Lai had been living deep in the divine capital for a long time. He had never seen Tiandao before. He merely regarded the old man before Si Wuya with a puzzled expression. Who is this old man? Why is Si Wuya kneeling before him? Li Jingyi appeared unperturbed. She seemed to have expected this all along. Regardless, just kill them all. Ha Luo waved his hand. The people of Lulan and Ruli below him charged towards Si Wuya in a frenzy like a pack of wild wolves. Lu Zhou glanced at them. It was rather impossible for him to extricate and dissociate himself from this situation at this moment. Si Wuya said again, "If you're willing to make a move, Master, I will return to the Evil Sky Pavilion and accept any kind of punishment you mete out." Bam! Si Wuya's forehead touched the ground. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and looked at Si Wuya as he said, "I hope that you won't disappoint me." He flipped his hand. The peacock plume materialized in his hand. The faint starlight gave the peacock plume a dazzling radiance. "Go!" Lu Zhou tossed the peacock plume out, and it flew towards Si Wuya. Si Wuya was overjoyed. He pushed away from the ground and grabbed the peacock plume before he flew into the air. "What's that in his hand?" Ha Luo was puzzled. All he saw was Si Wuya tossing the peacock plume in his hand into the air. The peacock plume spun swiftly and buzzed. Then, it split into two, forming the shape of a fan. Golden glittering energy wrapped around the peacock plume. The two sections of the peacock plume attached themselves to Si Wuya's back. Lu Zhou looked up slightly. He nodded. The peacock spreads its plume. This is bad. Get back! Ha Luo cried out immediately. They felt that the primal qi in their surroundings were being sucked away by the peacock plume. The primal qi was absorbed by the peacock plume and formed the wings of the peacock. This was the peacock plume's characteristic. It was as beautiful as a peacock with its plume spread out. Brilliant and dazzling. Yet, while one was captivated by this shocking display, it had already claimed one's life. Si Wuya advanced in the air. He remained expressionless as he flapped his huge wings. With every beat of his wings, countless energy needles shot out. Bam! 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 The people from Ruli and Lulan were startled by Si Wuya's sudden move. When they wanted to turn around and run away, it was already too late. The energy needles that dotted the skies shot toward them like a tempest. The attack rained down on them with the force of a tidal wave and pierced their chests. The people of Ruli fell to the ground. Ding! Killed a target. Reward. 10 merit points. Ding! Killed a target. Reward. 10 merit points. Lu Zhou was not surprised to hear the notifications. Although it was a meager number, it was better than nothing. The people of Lulan were witchcraft cultivators to begin with. They had weak defenses. At this moment, the needles that stuck out from their bodies made them look like porcupines. Mr. Seventh, Hua Chongyang was invigorated. The peacock's spread plume. It's been a long time since I last saw it. Bai Yuqing wiped away the blood from the edge of his lips as he exclaimed excitedly. I remember the last time this was used was during the battle on Pingdi Mountain. Mr. Seventh and the sect master joined hands to lay down the foundations for the Nether sect. I didn't expect to see this again after all these years. The other three great protectors gazed at the horizons. Si Wuya's huge wings were dazzling. He swept through the other tribesmen and Lu Bing's troops mercilessly. Retreat! Fall back! Lu Bing barked hastily. He had no time to explain the situation to his subordinates. Even his 6 generals were flustered by this development. They kept falling backward. Ha Luo seemed incredulous. His eyes widened. His rage and hatred were completely ignited. His eyes were bloodshot. You will die today. Ha Luo howled at the skies. His Wolf King avatar stepped on his 7-leaf golden lotus and dove from a higher spot. He charged toward Si Wuya like a comet. Si Wuya pulled his wings toward himself. He shielded himself with his wings. Boom! Si Wuya reeled back. As he did so, he spread his wings and flapped. Boom! 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 Needles shot toward the Wolf King avatar. Ha Luo moved at lightning speed as he charged toward his target with the avatar. A 6-leaf is a 6-leaf. After all, Ha Luo plunged into his Wolf King avatar and became one with it. The avatar seemed to be covered in a translucent, shining golden network of veins. Bam! 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 Ha Luo repelled the energy needles. The 6 generals flew up to the war chariot. Your Highness, this is a great chance to take down the Nether sect and the other tribes in one go, the Grand General said with a bow. Smack! Lu Bing slapped him. The Grand General was puzzled and flustered by this gesture. Lu Bing gulped before he said, look for an opening, and run. Run! Why would they run when they had the upper hand? The other generals were taken aback. No matter from which angle one looked at it, they were clearly going to benefit from this situation. Meanwhile, Ha Luo dove toward Si Wuya with his Wolf King avatar again. Si Wuya frowned. He pulled his wings together and retreated swiftly. Mr. Seventh, Hua Chongyang, Bai Yuqing, Yang Yan, and Dai King exclaimed in shock. Whoosh! On the flattened patch of rubble, a faint purple energy arrow shot out. The energy arrow was as thick as a tree trunk. The supersized energy arrow that looked like a heavenly pillar sailed through the air. Its size made a hard-to-miss sight. Everyone's attention was attracted by this. The meteor-like energy arrow sailed from the right to the left before it hit the Wolf King's forehead. Bam! The arrow landed true. The Wolf King avatar shattered immediately. Ha Luo, who was hovering in the air, immediately doubled over. He clutched his chest as he looked past Si Wuya incredulously. He saw an old man who was standing level with the buildings. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he recalled the bow. The bow spun in the air and reverted to unnamed. Then, it shot into his sleeve and disappeared. It seemed like the terrifying arrow had been shot by the old man. As Ha Luo looked at the old man, blood trickled out from the edges of his lips, eyes, nostrils, and ears. Drip. His blood fell to the ground. The sunlight shone on the droplets. The blood of another tribesman. Splat. It fell to the ground. I will never allow my disciple to be bullied by the likes of you.